You know, the more I read into this whole Sony and Helldivers 2 debacle, the more I get confused about the outcome of this. We've got quite a lot of news coming today from the Sony instance that's been happening with Helldivers 2. This is an interesting one to say the least, but the more I read it, the more I get confused as to why this has been the root cause and why this has gone the way that it's gone. So we're going to dive on into it today. If you haven't already, smash that beautiful blue thumbs up and subscribe with post notifications turned on. It'd be greatly appreciated. On top of that, check out our sponsor, GamerSupps, the leader in energy, drink, and nutrition that offers gamers and esports athletes a healthy energy choice, helping them perform to their highest potential. GamerSupps is completely keto friendly and less than 1 calorie, completely sugar free, and comes in an array of tasty flavors. I recommend trying out Lean. It's a great start. Link in the description. Use code CloudPlayers at checkout for a cheeky discount. But with that being said, let's dive on into the news at hand. So Sony have had a bit of a debacle with Helldivers 2. Just to give you guys a quick catch up for those of you guys who don't know about it and live under a rock, they've actually banned down the game in 180 countries, or at least that's what it was this time yesterday. We're now banned in 176 countries, but we'll get into that in just a second. Essentially, they wanted to make sure there was a Sony link to Helldivers via Steam, so those who were on PC playing the game through Steam had to link a Sony account to be able to play the game. Now, the game is obviously in a third-party format, and what this means is that Sony are not allowed to be in certain countries. Therefore, they can't have the accounts created in certain countries, which meant that there are a bunch of Helldivers that no longer were able to play the game, and those who hadn't already purchased it were not now able to purchase it. This went down a massive storm and has created such a split in the community and a decrease in players that it's been absolutely insane. Although, the thing that confuses me the most is why there hasn't been a reversion on it. You no longer need the PlayStation link, and that is absolutely incredible, but they haven't reinstated the game in certain countries, and we are now looking at the root cause of this. Now, Helldivers 2 is now PlayStation's fastest selling game ever. Yep, you heard me right. As PS5 passes 59 million consoles sold, the Sony forecast is slower year ahead. Now, this is going to be a confusing one for you guys because we've sold 12 million copies in 3 months across PC and PlayStation, which as a publisher means this is the fastest selling game for Sony yet to date, which is absolutely incredible and massive news for Helldivers 2 as far as initial sales goes, although we're not obviously holding down those numbers as the player base is now reverted down, especially on Steam, down to less than 85,000 players in any 24-hour period, sometimes as low as about 30,000 concurrent players at any one time. This is getting really confusing though, because when we start looking at it, for a game that is PlayStation's fastest selling game ever, why they would not revert it. Now, we have had an update on regards to this, and as of yesterday, Steam removed some of the countries from the restricted zones, which means that the American Samoa, Guam, Northern Marina Islands, Puerto Rico, and the US Virgin Islands are now able to play the game again. They're able to purchase, they're able to get on board, but these are obviously all American territories, which is absolutely odd that they were even on the list to begin with, but they can now get back on board, which has left us with 176 countries that are no longer allowed to play the game, and these obviously go all the way across the board when we start looking at it, from Greenland to the Republic of Moldova. We've also got Algeria on there. There's loads and loads of different countries that are not able to play Helldivers due to the Sony linking issue. And this one confuses me greatly. They altered it yesterday and took the 4 countries off of the list. Whether that's going to be an extension or not is yet to be seen, but these obviously are all American territories, probably just PSN remembering and then altering it to that degree. We obviously had an additional 3 countries go onto the list very recently, and that's obviously caused a bit of a debacle. Why on earth, for the fastest selling Sony game going to date, would you ban the game down in 176 countries at one point 180 is absolutely beyond me. I don't really understand the main reason for this and why they can't just revert the changes with regards to making the game accessible on Steam in these countries. Helldivers 2 was just going to be a small-time indie game that would have had a decent player base based on its original predecessor, Helldivers, the original game. And this is absolutely insane that it took the numbers that it took and blew up to the degree that it has. Sony has got a lot to answer for at this point, and I think that this is something that's going to be quite a ongoing battle for future months. I don't think this is going to be something that is fixed in any way, shape or form, but the commercial license was obviously updated yesterday. I really don't understand what's going on. But hopefully we can get some more of these countries reinstated with regards to what it is that's happened. Because as it stands right now, thanks to obviously the large part of its wild success on Steam, is that the PlayStation published Breakout hit shifted around 1 million more than the previous record holder, which was 2022's God of War Ragnarok. But obviously there's now been a shifted partake in Sony's main structure, as Sony obviously yesterday confirmed its permanent replacements for now departed former PlayStation boss Jim Ryan. Now, two men will now share the CEO role, and PlayStation Studios boss Herman Holst focused on game development, and Nishino overseeing PlayStation hardware. Both will report to the PlayStation chairman, Totoki, who has been overseeing the business since Ryan's departure. So we'll have to see exactly how that one goes, because overall Sony are doing some strange things. Obviously Ryan's departure ended with the amount of around 900 staff leaving the business and the closure of Sony's London studios. So where this is going to go as far as the overall, I think this is going to be a ship-shapey one. This one stems way further than Arrowhead and the actual game itself. This one is completely in the hands of the blue, and it's not seeming to look like it's going to be a bright outcome nonetheless. Essentially what I'm saying here is, although there seems to be loads of posts on Reddit and loads of posts on Twitter with regards to this situation stating that they need to revert it, and loads of people are now not playing the game until these options happen, until these reversions happen, I would not bank on the factor that these reversions are going to happen anytime soon. We've obviously now got two new CEOs sharing the role, and hopefully they understand the severity of this, with Helldivers being the fastest selling game from Sony to date. I would like to think that they would definitely look after this title. It just baffles me that it's not been looked after up until this point. Jim Ryan now leaving the business seems to mean that there could be some reversions and changes made, and hopefully the team at Arrowhead are in communications with the new CEOs about how this could impact the future of Sony, PlayStation and Helldivers as an overall. But for those of you guys who are blaming Helldivers, Arrowhead, I just don't think it sits in their hands whatsoever. I think this stems so much further back than what we seem to think it does, but we just needed to put something out there to give you guys a bit of an insight, as I've been doing some research now for the last 24 hours on what's been happening since the Sony earnings call and how it's impacted the game as an overall, and they've made a lot of money from this. Let's be completely frank. They'd be absolutely stupid to let this thing die. If they don't do something over the next few months, we could be seeing the near end of Helldivers 2 with regards to it, other than maybe a loyal player base that sits around maybe 10 to 20,000 players at any given point, which will be enough to keep the servers open. But unless they manage to make a real drastic change to the communications on what it is that can happen from Sony and Helldivers, I think that people are genuinely stubborn enough to not play this game because of it. As the comment section keeps saying, we either dive together or we don't dive at all. And that seems to be a common statement that I've been seeing over the comment section and Reddit and Twitter and all over social media. The Helldivers 2 community is a pretty robust one and is one that likes to stick to their guns. So if anybody from Sony is actually watching this, all I'm saying is you're dealing with an absolute army right now. That's completely how it is. We need to make some reversions now, or else this game's going to see the end of its lifetime. And this money that they seem to be making from it as the fastest game sold from Sony as a publisher all time, you may be running that one down to a blank point. That's all we've got time for today. I just wanted to get that conversation going. If you haven't already, smash that like button, subscribe, post notifications turned on. Appreciate your faces. Like, subscribe, and I'll see you in the clouds.